You alright folks, and welcome back. Hope you had a good Easter weekend and got sufficiently drunk or fat on chocolate. I did a bit of both and my liver has yet to recover from the pickling it received. So finally we're seeing some progress on the beta somewhat. You can now copy your characters or make a level 80 template and get testing the new Cata stuff. So Hyjal, Vajir, Deepolm, so on and so forth. Though that is about it at the moment. The update to the beta went out on the Thursday at around 10:30, 11ish for those here in Britain land, but naturally it was bugged when it came up, so you could transfer your characters but the XP bar was actually locked and you couldn't get to the new leveling zones to even begin testing them. Given the time and the chances those issues weren't gonna be fixed anytime soon, I packed it in for the night and came back the next day where it was all working, so I could get cracking. And get cracking I did. It's pretty much what you'd expect. The zones that I've done thus far, because again, Easter weekend, otherwise engaged, didn't have the time to just sit and sprint to 85. Yeah, for the most part, they're in good nick. Bug-wise, it's all very minimal, thankfully. However, that doesn't mean it's completely bug-free. So far, I've run into at least a quest per zone that is either completely undoable or bugged in such a way you have to do some sort of performative dance to get it to work. A couple examples that come to mind right now. The quests in Hyjal where you joust the Twilight Hammer on hippogriffs is laughably bugged. Instead of flapping and moving in the direction the character is facing, the hippogriff you're on constantly flaps to a nearby wall, regardless of where you, the player, is looking. It's like some sort of geomagnetic prank. It'll inevitably plop you in some lava and game over. The other quest is in Deepolm, where you need to give some of the earthen a buff, a boon of the Stonefather or some such. If you were to run up to the mobs and use the item, nothing happens. But there are pillars around the battlefield where this quest takes place. If you jam yourself into those pillars or on a nearby ledge and use the item, it miraculously works and you can buff any nearby NPCs. But given everyone and their dog wants those same NPCs and you can't buff an already buffed NPC, it is a little bit hellish at the minute. It's just really weird and unpleasant, but such is the way of the beta. But so far, examples like this have been the extreme minority. It's all fairly well cobbled together for the time being, so that's a plus. Dungeons then. Well, leveling dungeons are out, so you can do the normals as you level, and from what I've seen, again, mostly functional. The odd bug, but nothing ruinous, thankfully, at least that I've come across or even heard about. And yeah, there just really isn't that much to report on the normal front. They are serving their purpose quite well. So, heroics then. Well, I haven't hit 85 yet due to Easter shenanigans, so I can't really speak as to their inclusion, though I have asked around, and apparently they are in the game right now, so once I'm level 85, I will begin working away on those charming chaps, so I can finally get started on those dungeon videos I promised many moons ago, which, I won't lie, I have really been looking forward to. But somewhat adjacent to that, the LFD/RDF, whatever you want to call it, and the Dungeon Journal are still absent. The Blue Post states the reason being that they are still works in progress. I can believe that for the Dungeon Journal, but as far as the LFD goes, I imagine it's again to prevent people from living in instances for leveling, and so that they actually get out there and test the quests, which, yeah, okay, fair enough. Transmog, Reforging and Void Storage are also still absent. Now, it's not too big a deal at the moment with Transmog and Void Storage, though I would like to have a ganders at those, but Reforging is something we're going to need to start testing fairly soon, especially if people are now doing endgame dungeons and whatnot. So hopefully this is released in the very near future, and they don't leave it to the 11th hour, because we really can't afford for that feature to launch in a broken state. Archaeology is also a bit of a funny one at the moment, because apparently it's in the beta right now, but I can't learn it. I've tried on a couple of characters, but the profession is just empty. I've hunted down a few trainers actually, and it is the same thing. So whether or not this is me just being completely boned by the game for some reason, or it isn't actually implemented despite what the Blue Post says, who knows? I'm leaning towards the latter because otherwise that's a weirdly specific issue, but I'll keep my eye on it in the coming days and weeks, and when the game deems me worthy of the power of shovel and bone brush, I will update you all accordingly. And there is a very odd bug floating around for those levelling past 80. It seems to be mostly remedied at the moment, but I have still heard the odd report of it happening, so I thought I'd mention it regardless. And that is that some characters become temporarily locked if you log out or disconnect at level 81. Again, also heard reports of it happening at the higher levels too, but it does mostly seem confined to that first level post 80. Now, this happened to me in scuppered about 5 hours of playtime. I had gotten most of the way through Hyjal, most of the quests were completed, but I had a horrendous headache that wouldn't shift. So I logged off for an hour or so, went had a lie down in a very dark room, came back and was greeted with the error text when I went to log in. And that's what I had for the next few hours. I did consider starting a new character again, but if I had to log out for any reason, chances were I'd end up in the same situation. In fact, someone I know did just that. Well, they were actually disconnected halfway through level 81 on their second character, and they were locked out. So, yeah, there was no real way of winning that apart from don't log out and pray you don't DC. Any other business then? Well, some class issues are still persisting. It doesn't look like a fix for these issues is on the horizon anytime soon because they've been around since the beta launched, and they're still here. And they are noted on the blue post, but some of the more noteworthy ones include Mangle for Ferals still being completely balked as it vanishes every time you log out, and again for Druids, Rejuve isn't scaling correctly and is basically the most pointless heal in the beta. Now, there is one I've come across that isn't listed on the blue post, and that is for Frosty K's. The talent turned spec passive Blood of the North is just not working. If you don't know what that is, in Wrath, it's a talent that when you use Blood Strike, your blood runes are then converted into death runes, which is the Swiss Army knife of DK runes. It counters all three, so is much more useful to a Frost DK than just plain old blood. In Cata, it's a base spec passive you learn upon choosing that spec, and just permanently converts your blood runes into death runes. And at the minute, it just doesn't, and I'm finding Frost is far too resource starved without it, because you can't get out enough obliterates, which means you aren't generating enough runic power to make Frost Strike work, and you just end up staring at the thing you're fighting like you've been caught with your dick hanging out. As a Frost DK main, I'm really feeling this, so I've had to go unholy for the time being, which isn't all that bad. It's actually quite a lot of fun, and I'm enjoying it. But by no means is what I'm saying a reflection on a functional version of the Frost spec. It's just a bug with that particular passive, which, in fairness, does make it pretty unplayable. Also, glyphs are a bit of a pain at the moment. Now, a template character comes with all the glyphs learned, so you can test away. But character copies don't have that luxury. However, Blizzard have failed to implement a glyph vendor at this stage, and given that not a lot of people are making glyphs at the minute, you can only really test them if you've made a template character, which is really bloody stupid. So, Blizz, for the love of God, put in the goddamn glyph vendor so that we can, test the glyphs, please? Now, I've also heard that the boat to Vashir is a buggy mess, but I haven't gotten round to fiddling with that zone yet, so I will update in the next log should it still be a thing. And there is one teeny tiny thing that's bugging me more than anything else at the moment, which just goes to show my priorities. Flying. So, you can learn your Flight Master's license for a negligible fee. That's grand, but 310% master flying. Now, I spoke about this in a video many months ago, but I'll just go over it quickly here. In Wrath at the moment, the highest level of learn flying is Artisan, and that is 280% speed. But as I'm sure most of you know, there are mounts that go beyond this and allow you to achieve a speed of 310%. In the original transition to Cata, any player who had been using a 310% speed mount up to that point was granted the master riding ability for free. It only made sense. You've been using the big shiny fast dragon, so you can continue to use the big shiny fast dragon. On the beta at the moment, however, that is sadly not the case. You have to learn master riding, even if you have a mount copied over that would be 310% speed in Wrath. The reason I think it's a bit up in the air at the moment is because of account-wide collectibles. This wasn't around back then, so just granting an individual character this boon wasn't too bad. But at the moment in Wrath, even if a character didn't earn the achievement or mount directly, due to account-wide collectibles, so long as they have artisan riding, they can still use the 310% speed mounts. And in that previous video, I speculated it could go a number of ways. Either they'll screw us and make us have to pay out to achieve the same riding speed we are already using, which, if you've got a lot of characters like me, that adds up. If it goes live like this, I'll be looking at 40 grand just to get back to the exact same place I am at right now on all my characters, which is a piss take, I'm not gonna lie. Or they could just hand it out to all the characters on an account who can access those mounts already. So to clarify, if an Alt of your Caesar's riding and is able to hop on an achievement Proto-Drake that you've got on your main, for example, they too would be eligible for the free upgrade because they're already using that item at its fastest speed. But I would sell for something a bit more middle ground than that if that isn't the case, and only characters who have done the achievement or looted the mount would receive the free upgrade, as was the case in original Cata. I could live with that. A fair few of my tunes actually qualify, so it wouldn't be as big a hit to my wallet. Now, this could all change. I'm not saying it's final. It is a beta at the end of the day. I'm just reporting my findings and thoughts. But for the love of God, if anyone is watching, please don't let it go live as it is right now. I am begging you. It's not a big thing, I know. It's not game-breaking, but it feels no less crappy to have your wings clipped than be told, oh yes, now you must pay many thousands of gold just to get back to the speed you've been flying at for the last 2 years. And I don't want this to come across as me moaning that I might have to pay for something, heaven forbid. My priest, for example, doesn't have fast flying, and I wouldn't expect that character to receive any kind of upgrade. And I'm not saying I want a Daddy Blizz handout. If a character can't utilise the 3 10% speed mounts to their fullest at the end of Wrath, then terribly sorry, old bean. But what I am saying, though, is for the last 2 years, I have had a 3 10% speed mount, having to pay many thousands of gold across numerous characters to get back to that state, when that wasn't something that was required the first time round, would be just a touch demoralising. And on that bombshell, I'll leave it there for now. Let me know your own thoughts down below, folks. My aim is to finish off my DK and get started on the dungeons as soon as possible, as that is what I've been looking forward to the most. So hopefully in the coming days and weeks, you'll start seeing videos pop up on those. But if you'd be so kind to like, sub, show your pals and so on, that'd be grand. Have a good one, folks. Bye for now.